Hello.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hey, Glenn, you look confused.
Yeah, rightfully so. You know how I told you that my camera and my mic might cut off? They
Yeah,
just did.
did it? They did it?
Yeah, so there's something going on.
Oh,
So
interesting.
everybody, if you see me disappear or you can't hear me at some point, there's something wrong going. There's something
Then,
going on technically.
then I'll answer your questions, and you'll get nothing out of it. How's that? Does everybody cool with
No.
that? No. Okay. All right. So, yeah, if you have questions for Glenn, type them in the description of, type them in the comments underneath wherever you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, wherever that may be, and Glenn will answer your questions. They can be about anything. They can be vague if you want, whatever, whatever, however you're feeling today. All right, so we have a couple questions that we asked listeners throughout the week to start us off. Sandy, hi guys. Hey Sandy, welcome. Glenn, your mic cut off.
How's that?
It's good. So this is going to be interesting.
I've just been, as you were doing that, I was just over here clicking. I was in like another window, just clicking stuff, trying to figure out my mic.
Very nice. Well, hey Sandy. All right, so
Hey, Sandy.
let's see. How do I find time in my schedule to take breaks? With kids and work and family, it just feels like it never stops.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Isn't that? Oh, there we go. I just fixed. I think I figured out the sound was coming through my computer instead of my headphones. It was driving me crazy.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So now this is much better. So yeah. What was it? Life's busy.
How do I find times in my schedule to take breaks with kids and work and family? It just feels like it never stops.
Well, you don't really find them, you make them. So really you have to schedule I've been doing this for years. Like I don't have to schedule work time. I work plenty. Like I don't there's no shortage of me doing. There's sometimes shortages of me being. So I schedule that stuff. I literally schedule it on my calendar and lock it in and be like, okay, this is downtime. And, with kids, it's important to teach them to give you downtime. You see how it's a trickle down effect. Like, why do we not know how to take care of ourselves? Because we didn't see it. We had no role models who took care of themselves. That's why. So it's just passed down generation to generation. So we need to break that cycle and we need to start taking care of ourselves. And then when our children are in their 30s and 40s or whatever, and their lives are busy and they're going, oh my God, I can't find time. What they'll do is they'll make some downtime in their life. Why? Because they saw you do it. Does that mean that they're not going to go, yeah, but try to come up with excuses why to interrupt your me time? No, they will. They're kids. That's what they do. But, it's setting a boundary, teaching yourself about boundaries, teaching your children about boundaries, learning to stand in boundaries. So you got this whole learning curve that you're learning. Plus, you're teaching them about boundaries. You're teaching them how to respect other people. It's my little spiritual web with goodness thing. When you take proper action, it's spider webs with goodness. Your life just gets enhanced in all other ways if you stop using the illogical. It doesn't even, I hate even going there. It doesn't even make sense when you the reason that people don't take breaks literally doesn't make sense. It does, like what? You're not a good parent if you take a half an hour for yourself, that means you're not a good parent. Or there's just no logical reason why you can't. And all you're doing really is, just always being there for your children and never allowing them to learn to respect anyone else, including you. How is that benefiting them as people? It's not teaching them to be a good person. It's teaching them to not care about other people. That's what it's teaching them. It's teaching them to not care about you. It's teaching them to not take care of themselves when they get older. It's, we're teaching children, the wrong things in the name of martyrdom. Oh, I have to slave over the hot stove and to be a good mother. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Take care of yourself. Live a more balanced life. Show your children how to live a balanced life. Show your children how to respect you and others. And that you're giving them way more. You're giving them way more that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, there. So hi to Sandy and Nancy and Sarah.
Yeah, let's.
Friend Angie.
Absolutely. Nancy says hello. Sarah says, "Hey, Ben and Glenn. I was first."
Oh, yeah, Ben and Glenn. Well, yeah. B comes before G, so she probably had the dictionary open.
I don't know about that. All right, let's move on to our next question. If you guys have questions, please ask them in the comments, and Glenn will be happy to answer them for you. All right, here we go. I was seeing someone for an extremely brief period of time, during which they bought me gifts that were really too much for the circumstances. How do I politely deny these signs of affection? Can I just say, I have been guilty of that on the other end. I remember one time I had in like 10 years ago, I had a girlfriend, and it was a couple months in, but we had been friends for a really long time. And I was like, hey, your birthday is coming up in like 6 months, which is not coming up. But this concert went on sale that would have been impossible, and it was her favorite band, and it was blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so I got tickets. And she was like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And I was like, come on. And it was like, no, this is over next week. You just don't know it yet. So I definitely have done that before. Okay, she's saying it's a left to right thing.
Yeah, I kind of thought that.
Let me have this, Sarah. Okay, yeah. I'm not going on an international trip soon. I need this. Continue.
Ben needs to come first every
once
in a while.
Thank you very much. Somebody at least acknowledges it. So
you got your old business that's launching all over Rhode Island and God knows where else. So you got plenty.
So somebody accepted a gift during a brief relationship that was really too much, and now they want to return it, or deny it. What do they do?
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of for the basic answer. I don't know if I'm going to say anything after this or not, but the basic answer is I know I've said this before. It's when people ask me what to do, they usually tell me what to do in the question, and I think that's a good example. Like, it's just too much for the circumstances. How do I politely deny it? And it's like, well, maybe by saying I'd like to politely deny this because it's too much for the circumstances, that's how, like, you just kind of said it. So that's the short answer. But I mean, really, it's always about being honest. Just be honest and be like, listen, I appreciate the sentiment, because I'm sure you do. I appreciate the sentiment. Good. Oh, good. See that? That sets them at ease. So they're less likely to be defensive, because the first thing out of your mouth was to say, hey, thank you. I appreciate the sentiment. Because that's what it was. It was a sentiment. So you said, thank you, and I appreciate it. Oh, good. Excellent. Because that's why I gave it, because I want to give a nice sentiment. But for the circumstances that we're in, this is just, I just don't feel comfortable. receiving this. It's too big. It's too big of a thing. I wouldn't feel comfortable. I appreciate it, but I just don't feel comfortable accepting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't, and in most situations, you don't have to necessarily like wait for them to agree. I think I think that little pause at the end, depending, this can vary a little bit depending on how you're talking to them. But like if you already have it, you can send it back to them, and you can say at the bottom, like if you're emailing, you say, hey, I already sent it back, or you can mention that in the conversation or something like that. But like, because sometimes in conversations like this, when people are not good at receiving, which is a completely different topic than what we're talking about, but it spills over into this. So sometimes when people, because many people are not good at receiving, what happens is when you say, oh, no, you shouldn't have, people are used to going, oh, yes, but I wanted to. Like, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction, and they just want to force it on. So it's like, so if you, depending on the situation, if there's that pause, they might be like, oh, are they waiting for me to say, no, it's okay, keep it? Or are they? So you can kind of, in some way just say, no, I like give the conclusion. So I guess that's what I was leading to. I could feel there was a piece missing. So like, hey, I appreciate that. So I think the three parts are like, hey, I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. This is really too much. So I've already decided that I'm sending it back, or blah, blah, blah. Give the conclusion, so you got all three of those parts and it's kind of done. And then if they, they might give some little counter or a little back to, and you go, no, I understand. I understand that you're, like I said, sentiment, truly appreciate the sentiment. That I'm keeping the sentiment. I appreciate that. The gift, not comfortable with though. Thank you though. It was a really nice thought.
I'm gonna.
Do you like salad or freaking pizza for dinner tonight?
I'm gonna flip that for a second, just because, as I said through that previous story, because I learned nothing from the story that I told from like 2008 or whatever that was, because I would do it again today. So why? Like I just am, because I'm that blocked, I guess. Like, how do you stop your, like, if you are somebody who is overly generous, or like, how do you examine like why you're doing this? If you're somebody who likes to give gifts, or like, you know what I mean? Like things that are not
there's
proportionate.
And that's kind of it, because it's like, if you're somebody that likes to give gifts, there's a good chance that it's your love language. So anybody who doesn't know about the love languages, it's kind of an interesting little thing. You can go Google the 5 love languages, and you can find like a little online test that you could take at 5 or 10 minutes, and it teaches you what your love languages are. So some people like to give and receive gifts. Some people like to say the words "I love you." Some people like to do acts. So there's multiple things, but gifts is one of them. So a lot of times, if giving gifts is your love language, then, and not knowing that there are multiple love languages, we generally expect people to give the way we like to give and receive like what we like to receive, because we've never looked into this. So sometimes, sometimes it can be almost any gift that people don't really appreciate because it's not their love language. They're like, oh, they bought me something. That's nice. I wish they'd tell me they love me, because
I'm going to take the quiz when we're done. And I'll let you know.
So sometimes it's just like, I wish they'd tell me they love me, but they bought me this. Oh, that's nice too. But it's just not their love language. So it doesn't mean that much to them. And it's the other person's love language. So they're like, why don't they appreciate what I buy them? So that's where the confusion comes in. So that's kind of one thing. But the disproportionate thing is, I heard it, like I've known the dynamics of this for a while, but I heard it said really in a cool way a little while ago. And and I forgot who said it, but they said you can't let the relationship has to lead the circumstances. You can't. The relationship has to lead. I'm forgetting the other word that they used, which was perfect. But like the point that was being made was that if you're in a relationship and a relationship is an organic thing and it just grows and it continually expands and moves forward. So if you just let how you feel about each other lead, and then like kind of the title of the relationship, like if you're dating or if you're serious or if you're going to get engaged or if you're going to go on vacation with each other, or like if you let that trail behind, then everything goes fine. Like when you're just sitting there and you're like, you've been out to dinner a bunch of times, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this, you've done that, and then all of a sudden it's almost natural for it to go to the next thing. It's just the natural next step. That's fine, because the relationship that you're building leads the circumstances behind it. But it's when we try to put the circumstances in front of the relationship to try to pull it along like quicker, that's when it becomes a problem. So that's when we start doing things that are inappropriate, when we're trying to lead the relationship into a direction that we want it to go, instead of just naturally allowing it to go there. That's when it starts getting difficult. And that's when we start doing things that are inappropriate. So, which is oftentimes you got to look closely, not always, but a lot. One of the most common things that leads that is, wanting, you're wanting the end result instead of being present in the moment. I want to be in a relationship. Oh, I want a steady girlfriend. I know how that is. I enjoy being in relationships. So I've been at stages in my life where I'm just like, I want to go. Hey, we click. Cool. Can we be here? Because like I like there, So I understand how it is, but it's just we just have to relax and let it naturally get there.
I think that's interesting. I think that my head tells me I like it there, but in reality, I like it in the moment. I like the present. I like the build.
Everybody does. Everybody likes the present moment. It's an illusion that we like it, that we want everything to be someplace else. It's, if you look back on relationships, the beginning when you're not in the beginning of a relationship and you got that excitement and some of the fear and you go, oh, does she like me? Oh, geez, I don't know if she likes me. Oh, is this going to turn into something? Oh, I don't know if it is. There's an excitement that's a part of that you look back on. And it's like, wow, that was such a amazing time. And it's the same thing when you're building a business or running your career. People don't sit down and talk about the day that they never had to worry about money again. Usually, they talk about, oh, remember that time, like when we were living in that 1-bedroom apartment underneath the train tracks and we couldn't even sleep at night, but somehow we made it work. And then we look back on our difficulties and the growth and the experiences we had through our life fondly when we're on the other side of them. If we're not in the present moment, we miss out on a lot of the joy.
We have 3 great questions to get to in the comments right now. But first and foremost, I would like to say thanks, Sandy. Nancy,
there you got your 15 minutes of fame. You happy now?
Nancy says, what is your best advice for not getting caught up in the anxiety of everything that's going on around us? Example, pandemic, being out of work, things getting worse before they get better.
Well, anxiety is fear of the future, so it's staying in the present moment is one of the best things. the pandemic, we've talked about it so much. It's, the pandemic is, we have to be more, I just think it kind of comes down to, we have to be more concerned with living than dying. Like at some point if the whole focus of our life is not dying, then we're missing out on living, So I think, and that goes with you can tie a lot of the pandemic stuff into that, because most of it doesn't matter. Like 90% of the stress and the fear and the worry about what's going on with this pandemic is completely out of our control. Like, what are we going to do? Like, if somebody's not wearing a mask, what are you going to do? Are you going to tackle them and kill them because they don't think like you do? Probably not. So stop worrying about it. 90% of the stuff that we worry about on a daily basis means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. You can write a list of your problems and stick it in an envelope and for 2 weeks and go back to it, and most of them are going to be gone. Most of the stuff we worry about, it just doesn't. It just literally doesn't matter, and it never helps us solve anything. Like the fear doesn't help us. It doesn't. We've been conditioned to think that if we feel bad enough or we punish ourselves enough or there's enough anxiety, then we'll choose to do something different or something. And it doesn't work. It's accept the reality that everybody dies and there's nothing wrong with death. It's going to come when it's going to come. And then you can that doesn't mean we all are nothing everything. Like, oh, if I accept death, that means that I'm going to run in front of a truck. No, it doesn't mean that. If I accept the reality of death, that means I'm not going to protect myself from the virus. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that you're dealing with the reality of life and that everything ends and none of us have a guaranteed time frame as long as we're going to be here. We just don't. Some people are going to live until 4. Some people are going to live until 40, and some people are going to live to 84. And we don't know who's what. We don't have a contract. There's nothing wrong when we die. It's just a transition. So like if we just spend a little time, I think, working through that and releasing all the fears that are attached to that, then we can kind of relax a little bit and just be like, okay, well, I'm not worried about that. And then it's such a big thing. It's going to help us deal with the smaller fears that come into it, the day-to-day fears. And it's like, fear is just paying interest on a loan that you haven't gotten yet. It's like the problem hasn't even occurred yet, but you're going to expend all this emotional energy being fearful before it even arrives, and shut your brain down so you don't think clearly, so you can't see solutions that could possibly help you, and lower your immune system and all this stuff. There's no positive benefits to living in fear. There's a ton of negative benefits. And I think if we slow down and, go listen to the podcasts on fear, research spiritual stuff about fear and perspectives, and really try to live it. This pandemic is an opportunity. It's not a problem. And we have to stop looking at it as a problem. It's an opportunity to deal with anxiety. It's an opportunity to find a way to live without anxiety. When we feel anxiety, we should start looking at that as an opportunity to figure out how to live without it. Not like it's some condition we caught on the subway that we can't get rid of. We can get rid of it. We can live without it. And we have to start understanding that and taking steps towards it. And the being out of work, it's, it is what it is. I mean, that's a big one. So it kind of depends on the circumstance. I don't think I could really dive into it too deeply. I mean, if you're okay financially, then you're okay financially. I mean, let it go. If you're not, start looking around for other things. You know, maybe there's a hobby that you can do and you can sell things online. You know, again, if we don't get caught up in the fear of it, oh no, what, I'm out of work. Oh no, I'm out of work. Oh no, I'm out of work. That there's no solution there, you know. But if we go, okay, I'm out of work. So what do you have when you're out of work? Time. Okay, so what have I always wanted to do that I have the time to do now? Is there a hobby? You know, and of course you can slant it towards looking money. Maybe it's education to get into a new career. Who knows? But start looking for things. You know, don't be focused on the problem. Try to find the opportunity within that problem.
Thank you, Nancy. And as you saw, Glenn, Nancy said, thank you. I do need to live more in the moment. Love that. Fear is paying on a loan that you don't have yet. Sarah says, on the subject of boundaries, in your book, you talked about coming from a place of frustration versus self-love when disagreeing with someone. Would you mind talking about that a bit?
Yeah.
What book is she talking about?
Down to Earth, the spiritual being's guide to a happy human experience. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it looks just like that. Wait, it is that. That's a cool logo. Sign, symbol.
Anyway,
cover.
sorry. On the subject of boundaries, in your book, you talk about coming from a place of frustration versus self-love when disagreeing with someone. Would you mind talking about that a bit?
Yeah, that's really a good foundational piece. It's, you know, coming from setting boundaries, you got to understand that the boundary is about you. It's not about the other person. Because usually when we have to set a boundary, usually our brain is going like, they're doing this to me and I'm sick of them doing it to me and I don't want them to do it to me anymore. So I'm going to set a boundary and I'm going to say, no, you can't do that to me anymore. And that's all out of frustration, and it's all about them. And them is the very thing that you can't control. So don't set a boundary based in frustration, which is a negative energy, towards something that you can't control, which is somebody else. Instead, if we set it from self-love and we make it about us, it's a lot firmer boundary. So then we go, okay, I don't like it when, you know, I'll try to get specific so I can use some wording that might make a little bit of sense. I don't like it when people yell at me when they talk to me. So like, it's fine. I understand that some people yell at people to communicate, and some people don't mind it. Some people find it passionate. I don't like it. I don't communicate well like that. So I'm not going to communicate well with somebody who's yelling. So, and then if you set a boundary, you're just like, hey, listen, I understand that tempers got heated a few times. I just want to let you know, I can't do the yelling thing. It just doesn't work for me. You know, it's just, I get upset. It bothers me and I just can't do the yelling thing. So I'm just not going to do the yelling thing anymore. And then, I mean, you know, it could be if it's at work, so I'm just, if it gets to the yelling point, I'm just going to get myself out of the situation. You know, and you don't wait for them to agree. This is another situation. Don't wait for them to agree. That's the end of the conversation. You can turn around, walk out, you know, if it's appropriate, or, you know, I just want to let you know, it's just the end of the conversation. You know, they don't have to agree. And it usually works better because it's hard for somebody to go, yes, you do have to let me yell at you. Like it's just weird for somebody. You see, when you make it about you, it's hard for the other person to counteract that, because it's just freaking weird. No, you must allow me to yell at you because I am better than you or something. It's just weird phrase. It's just weird energy, you know? So when you make it about you, it's harder for somebody to combat. But if you go in and you go, hey, you're not going to yell at me anymore. You don't have the right to do that. They go, first thing they're going to do is start yelling because they're in defend mode. Because you just attack them. because you went in, you aren't going to do, that's an attack. You aren't going to do that. And then they defend, and then you're in an argument, So, yeah. So don't, if you have frustration, it just blows up. So I think that's the dynamic of that, setting boundaries with the freaking self-love, not the frustration thing.
And for more on that, check out the book.
Down to Earth, the Spiritual Being's Guide.
There's just a lot of disagreement happening right now, and I've not seen constructive ways to end it.
I'll allow it's in a lot of situations you have to allow disagreement. That's why you're not waiting for the agreement. Like when you set a boundary, it's about you. Like you're not waiting for, I don't give a shit if somebody agrees with my boundary. It's because it's not about them. And I'm not asking their permission. I'm saying this isn't okay anymore. And trust me, it's hard for people to get this in a work environment. For some reason, we think that we have to be abused in a work environment. We don't. I've done this in work situations. I've had bosses yelling at me and I went, whoa, no, I don't do the yelling thing. And I turned around, walked right out of the office and shut the door. It's just not going to happen. It's and I mean, and I'm not saying that it can never happen. I'm not saying that you can never lose your job, but quite frankly, I think if you lose your job in that situation, you're better off without it. And something else will open up. When you stand up for yourself in the name of self-love, the universe can't punish you for loving yourself. Because that's a whole system. The whole system of the universe is set up that you get positive feedback from your own expansion and becoming a better version of yourself, because that's what the universe wants of you. And you get negative feedback when you take negative action, when you shrink down and constrict. So like if standing up for yourself and just saying, hey, I don't like to be emotionally abused, gets you fired, then the universe is going to plop a better job right on the other side of that, as long as you stay open to it, and see it. It'll be there. It's just will you see it by staying open to it, because it can't give you negative feedback for positive action, and so setting a boundary is just it's not about people. It's not about agreement. It's not about people going, yes, I agree with your perspective. I could care less if you agree with my perspective, if you don't agree with my perspective. I'm just setting a boundary out of just, this is what I will tolerate and this is what I won't as a human being.
Our last question for today comes from YouTube, which is awesome. Check out Glenn's YouTube, Glenn Ambrose on YouTube. Hi, Glenn and Ben. Can you talk about the trauma/abuse growing up? Can you talk about trauma/abuse growing up and it turning that person into a controlling adult? How do you reverse it?
Yeah, I mean,
So Glenn's video went off for a second. He'll be back in just a second. There's something weird going on with his computer today. Hey. Nope, the audio sounds horrible. You got to fix him.
How's this?
The audio now sounds better. Go to camera and switch it.
Camera.
All right. Well, that worked. That had the opposite effect. So if you could hear me, switch it. Yeah. So I'm going to just pause for a second and Glenn will be back in just a second. If that's your only camera option, roll with it.
Yeah, I'll just go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. So yeah,
here's the question again.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Hi, Glenn and Ben. Can you talk about trauma, abuse growing up and it turning that person into a controlling adult? How do you reverse it?
Well, the reason I paused initially when I was reading that question is because it feels like this is a question talking about somebody else. And so the short answer is you can't. like if there's somebody that's controlling adult and you think you're going to go in there and change them, you're barking up the wrong tree. So, but that's out of the way. But let's just say this is, we're talking about ourself. I mean, the trauma abuse growing up, of course, it's difficult to deal with, but as you work through that, it actually can become your biggest asset. That's how everything is. It's our biggest detriment. There's a reason for us having gone through what we've been through. And the moment we shift spiritually around it, as soon as we take that issue and use it for good, all of a sudden it becomes our biggest asset. So, personally, we can completely do that. I mean, that's kind of the foundation of all spiritual growth. Anybody that has any depth, that has, is capable of really being a deep, solid, good person, has done this type of stuff. Specifically into a controlling adult, well, it's probably that controlling is an aspect of not feeling safe. So the work that needs to be done is feeling safe. So, it's probably, again, if there's specific trauma and abuse from the childhood that needs to be worked through, released, that energy, the perspective, the way it's being viewed, how it was necessary to be viewed as a child. See, when we're children, we don't, when we're adults, half the time it's difficult dealing with, abusive, traumatic situations, right? But when we're children, it's even more difficult. So because we have less experience and less faculties, and we understand the world less. So when we're young like that, we just figure out a way to perceive things from a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old's mentality. And then we just do that. And because, of course, that's how old we are. So we have to do it that way. But the thing of it is what we don't realize is that we can change our beliefs and how to look at things and process things at any given time. We can change our belief systems at any given time. But what we have to do is go in there and change it. Like, most people don't know that you can do that. So they just, until we go in, look at our belief systems and deal with the trauma and shift our perspectives around it, we can do that at any time. But that's the work. So we have to shift the perspective so it's healthier and you can feel safer, and then release the emotional trauma that's attached to the situation. So that's usually some type of energetic work. Sometimes that happens when you're doing the other work. Sometimes it's a separate process that you can do. Tapping is good for that. Like, so everybody listening, one thing you can do is research tapping, emotional freedom technique. And there's all kinds of free information out there on YouTube and everything. And just, you can, there's a specific way of bringing up trauma and tapping the energy meridians in your body to release the trauma, the energetic trauma, as you speak it around a particular situation. So that's a way that can be very helpful. But yeah, it's working through it, and it'll automatically reverse. It's the only other aspect is, whenever I talk about feeling safe, the ultimate safety is understanding we're spiritual beings having a human experience. If we understand we're spiritual beings foundationally, that's our foundation, and we're having a human experience secondarily, then all of a sudden we start understanding that we were never damaged by this by this childhood trauma. Not our soul. Our soul was never damaged. What we are in creation was never hurt, damaged, tarnished. It's fine. The only thing that was hurt was our emotional body and our mental body that lies on top of that. So if we reconnect to our soul and understand that that's what we truly are, it makes it that much easier to release the mental and emotional trauma that's on the surface. Other than that, I don't have anything deep to say.
Very nice.
Yeah, EMDR. So, I mean, for me, it's, there's all that type of stuff. I would try tapping. I mean, like when I woke up spiritually, when I moved to Rhode Island, I found somebody that was doing, like, I forgot what they call it, like energy healing or something. But like, there's lots of people doing Reiki nowadays. Sometimes that can help with the emotional aspect of it. But yeah, I went through I forgot what it was, like weekly sessions or something for months or something of just getting rid of that emotional trauma. The only thing I do want to mention, though, is it's important to do the mental aspect of the reframing and finding a different way to look at the situation, either during or before the emotional work. Tapping is unique because it kind of blends the two to some degree. So if you're tapping your way through it and you're following the instructions that they say, I believe they have you reframe it in the way you're wording it. So you're reframing it as you're releasing the emotion, which is good. That way you're hitting both the mental and the emotional aspects of it. But if you just try doing all the emotional releasing without doing the mental reframing first, you're just gonna rebuild the emotional, energetic stuff that's stuffed within you. Because what's going to happen is the way we look at things subconsciously determines the emotion it triggers. So if you have a negative outlook on something, every time you think about it or reminds you of it, or you have a dream about it or anything, you're just going to start rebuilding that emotion that you already released. So you have to do that. You have to do the mental reframing.
Very nice. Nicole, I hope that helps. I think it will. Deanna says, just so happy to see you both. Taking a lot from this session. Thank you both. Thank you, Deanna. I mean, I've done nothing, but thank you.
Yeah, you have.
I haven't said a single helpful thing in this entire time, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, you held space when I got knocked off. We'll give you some kudos for that.
I'll take where is it? Where are you? I'll take Sandy's. Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it for today. If you liked this, share it. Share the video. Share it with your friends. Let people know where to find Glenn. Obviously, check out the podcast, Life Lessons and Laughter, if you've never checked that out. There's almost 200 episodes all. Thank you. There's almost 200 episodes all on demand on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. Insight Timer, which is a fantastic meditation app. If you've never checked that out, guided meditations, podcast talks, all of Glenn's content is on there. GlennAmbrose.com. You can check all of that out at GlennAmbrose.com. And the book.
Get the book. Yeah, it's that. I saw some people left some reviews, so thank you. We got a few going now. We got to keep it going. But yeah, and like Ben said, share this too, because it's if this keeps building and keeps growing, then we'll keep doing it. If people are liking it, we'll keep doing it. So share it all. It's good stuff. This is the time. It's work from the inside out, not from the outside in. All the problems that everybody's worried about is outside of themselves. Oh, what about the pandemic? What about the work? What about my relationship? My kid's bugging me. It's all external. Do the inside work, and then your outside reality starts reflecting that back. And it's then all of a sudden the job, a new job comes, or a new career comes, or whatever. It all gets reflected back to you. So just try looking at this as an opportunity, not a problem. And we will talk with you soon.
I don't know
What camera? I don't even know what camera I'm using anymore.
Yeah, you're not using the right one.
This one.
This one. This is great content. Bye, guys.